Okay, well, I want to welcome everybody that's already tuned in to the CO Visit Live, and I want to thank Carol and Jeff for also being here, part of the team this afternoon to discuss our topic that we have. So I hope everyone is doing well. And remember that in the comment section, you can sound off, okay? And I'm just going to put up here, I want to remind everybody of the GoFundMe that's being sponsored by my dad, and for some of the medical issues that I have going on right now. And so basically, we're looking at coming up here in June, having an endoscopy with biopsy to either confirm or rule out that whatever it is in my esophagus is or is not cancer. So that's one of the things that we have coming up, among other things. So we're gonna have that on the screen for you there. That's the GoFundMe link, or you can go to the GoFundMe website and type in my name, and it should come up there somewhere. So anyway, let's see here. Carol, out in Ohio, how are things going with you? Just telling me in the pre-show that you were just back from vacation.
Yeah, went to Virginia to see my brother and his family and the ocean and that sort of thing. It was nice. I haven't been there in probably over 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Long time. That's nice. How'd it go? Everything good?
It went pretty well for the most part. Yeah, it was cool and rainy, just like it was here, except maybe 10 or 15 degrees warmer.
Okay.
But we had some sun, so we were able to get out.
Right. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Excellent. A lot of people have been on vacation lately. Jeff, you were halfway around the world very recently as well.
Yeah. Now I'm back to this side.
Right. back to snap back to reality, as Eminem said, goodness. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. How'd your trip going? Japan for the most part?
Well, I want to go back at the end of the year, and I want to see if they want to keep me.
Nice.
It's just an idea for now, but we'll see.
Might turn into something a little bit more permanent down the road. Excellent. Very interesting. Well, I want to thank you guys for being here, and we'll see if anybody else shows up for the live stream. I invited a couple of other people, but we'll see about the scheduling. You just never know how things are going to go, so we'll just kind of play it by ear. And the few people that are already logged on and watching right now, don't be bashful. Feel free to use the chat room to leave a comment, say hi, let us know who's here, and please interact with us and with yourselves in the chat room. So, getting to our topic, the topic that we're going to be discussing today, and all of the, I guess you could say, diverse implications of what it might mean. There are some shakeups at a lot of the branch Bethel offices around the world. And these are not just some of the fringe or marginal countries. These are some of the heavy hitters. So this is on right now. If you want to know where this information comes on, there's a governing body update number 3, which is on jw.org at this moment. Okay, so basically I'm just going to go down the list here and read who they are. So the first one is Patrick LaFranca or LaFranca. I don't know how you may pronounce some of these necessarily, but I'm going to go with LaFranca. He is the U.S. branch coordinator, okay, Bethel coordinator. Then we have Richard Kelsey. He's the Central Europe branch. That takes into account about 10 countries or so in Central Europe. We have Yoshihiro Nagasaki from Japan. Okay, the Japanese branch. We've got Andre Ramsmayer from the Canada branch. And I think those are it. So those 4. Okay, so the US, Central Europe, Canada, and Japanese branches. Basically, in the videos, were asked by the governing body to step aside, which is very interesting. Number one, it was very interesting to me. Why are they being so open and vocal about it and putting it in those terms? I mean, They could have said it in many different ways, but they basically said the governing body, the first one that came on, which was the U.S. branch coordinator, which is Patrick LaFranca, he came right up and said, this is the governing body that asked us to step down. And it was like, wow. And then the other guys, maybe it seems like he forgot the script a little bit. And the other guys were like, oh, this is Jehovah letting us know. And the first guy was like, the governing body asked us to step down, reminded us of our age and all this stuff. So, okay. So if you look at it, you always have with these kind of things, kind of the official government report, right? Okay, this is what's going on, and age is an issue, and we want younger people, young blood to get in there, and we're asking them to kind of step aside so we can give them other assignments and they can enjoy their older age and things like that. And it's like, okay, yeah, but where that doesn't happen? It doesn't happen to the governing body, right? Nobody asks them to graciously step aside, right? So they do it with other people in different positions of power. And I think once we get past the thin veneer of, as always, right? Everything they do, every time there's new light, it's a loving arrangement for one thing or another. Once we get past that smoke screen, what are the implications behind these branch overseers being asked to step down, and why? Because we know that every time Watchtower makes a move, it's always because of something else, right? There's always a reason why this is happening, whether it be reactionary because of something that's already happened, or it might be a bit of that, and it might be a bit of preemptive, striking or planning, depending on what's coming down the pike right now, right? Like some decisions that might be coming down. I don't know. Let me open it up to you guys and see what your thoughts are on it. Maybe Carol, you want to kick it off? Give us your thoughts.
Oh boy, so many. I think it is a pivot from what happened in 2015 when they were just sent quietly on their way. That didn't go over well to those who learned about how it was really done. So they use their JW lingo because we know what certain words mean where outsiders don't. So it was asked of them to step down. Well, it may have been asked, but it's not understood as asked. It's mandated. And it's very well understood. And of course, there's the guilting. You don't want to balk Jehovah's arrangement. So what are you going to do? You're going to have to knuckle under. And these older ones that have nothing else are going to just comply, because what are they going to do if they, balk and throw a fit? They'll be kicked out and lose everything they have at that age. That could be just, we saw what happened to Ray Franz, in his older years. So they don't want that to happen to them. But I think it's a financial thing. They're getting older. They're going to start costing money. And so with health issues and so on. And we saw that in one of the leaked convention videos, that one woman who, was I think missionary, and then had kidney disease and didn't get anything for her time. No kind of coverage, just, well, you need to just drop off the list and fade into oblivion quietly and happily. And she was happy to do that, which is so sad. But yeah, there's a lot of facets to it. They're trying to put on a pretense of being more open and less secretive, I think. It's all for show. There's nothing kind about it, I'm sure.
Very interesting points. Interesting points about them being, at the point of costing money.
Yeah.
And of course, they talked about being reassigned. They would all have reassignments to congregations, or they would be supervising in other areas. Of course, what does that mean? hey, congregations, they're basically giving you a heads up. This is your problem now, right? We're going to send these people down to you, and you have to take care of them. And now arrangements will have to be made. So kind of, tossing the buck around here about who's gonna take care of these elderly ones, right? Which is very sad. I think sad is the word. Jeff, what do you think?
So I think it's a way to get rid of the old people and bring in the younger people. And I was thinking about what does it mean to be an older compliant JW versus a younger compliant JW, especially as a brother. Whereas like the old ones, they're going to toe the line. Even if they feel something's wrong, even if they know something's wrong, at that age and the time they've put into it, they don't have anything else. So they're going to do what the organization or governing body tells them to do. But, that's still somewhere back to their liability. If you bring a young brother in, if you think about it, they're ambitious. They want to move forward. They want to have their faces, especially nowadays, like to me, younger people are much more comfortable being seen and being on, TV or video or whatever, but they're going to want to be seen. They're going to want to be visible. So, they're trying to bring these young, ambitious people who are going to do anything thoughtlessly. And they're not even going to think whether it's real or not. They're not going to put any critical thinking into it. They're just going to do it because they're going to be given power. And what does that trickle down to? Well, what happens at the congregation level? You think some young 18, 19, 20-year-old, young 20-something-year-old brother is really going to look at these old men that have been around forever and really don't have any charismatic qualities to them. What value is there listening to following them? But if you put somebody younger in who might be like in their early 40s or whatever, and the younger brothers see them, it's like, wow, they have something to aspire to. They have ambitions they can go after. So it's an easier way, I think, or one way at least, to try to keep younger people in, or to try to get them motivated to try to move up the ranks.
Very interesting optic to look at as well. That's a very good one too, internally, right? Motivating the people there. And definitely that's a thing where if they stick another brother who's maybe in his, 40s, mid 40s, 50s, and he just came from, maybe years of sweating away at the printing press or serving food or things like that, and then all of a sudden he's the branch overseer. The other Bethelites will go, whoa, man, we know brother so-and-so, man, he was down here cleaning toilets and stuff like that, right? Now look at him. And that really gets the morale up. You can imagine how morale is around Bethel these days with all this stuff. So that's another optic, that is very, very real, and very, very possible. We can visualize that, having someone in positions of leadership that are charismatic, somebody that wants to move up. So that desire to move up will make them more compliant. What about, I'll just kind of throw out some ideas. You guys can just, whoever wants to go. Okay. So let's look at it this way. Here's another optic as well. So do you think any of those regions particularly had anything to do with it? Or let's say, being that older servants also tend to, they're a little bit harder to roll with the punches when new light comes down, perhaps. I think we saw that with Uncle Tony. I think Uncle Tony was a victim of a lot of changes coming that he just wasn't ready to assimilate. Okay, and that can happen to a lot of older ones that maybe came up for a lot of years, seeing the organization how it was before, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, this is going to be allowed now, that's going to be allowed now. So do you guys think that a motivation for that, there could be some new lights coming that might be hard to digest? Anybody go ahead. Or should I just, you want me to tell you specifically, or Carol, what do
I
you
hadn't
think?
thought of it.
Yeah. Well, I definitely think it's possible because there was some serious getting their back up with older ones when like the beards started. Yeah, we need to contact the branch before we allow beards in this congregation because we just need to be sure. The older ones, they were just not having it. So there will be some of that. Whether that really played a huge role, it's anyone's guess. But yeah, the older you get, and I resemble this remark, the harder it is to go with the flow. You get set in your ways and you're comfortable, and it's really hard to make changes. So I can see that as being a problem.
Sure.
Jeff, what do you think?
I mean, what's the new light anymore? Like, okay, you don't have, okay, who's going to say like in 2 weeks from now, no more shoelaces at the Kingdom Hall? Like, I mean, I'm curious to see how the new lighter changes might be related to them excusing all these older brothers.
Right. And like I said, we don't know, and seeing some of the things that came from the past, I mean, from one day to the next, you can expect just about anything now, right? It seems like they open that Pandora's box with like one or two things just to kind of see how it would go over, and then it was just like constant after that. So, we had the I think it started initially with the time, not counting time, and then all of a sudden right behind that came the beards, and then the pants, and then they started lightening up a little bit on the treatment of disfellowshipped ones, which in practice, we don't know if that's really happening or not for the most part, but and seeing that specifically, it was U.S., Europe, Japan, and Canada. I think all of those regions have had issues with either CSA and or human rights type of conflicts and lawsuits. So with the U.S., definitely it's been more of the CSA issue. The European countries, we've seen more, like with Norway and other countries, they've been going after a little bit more of the human rights aspect of it, with letting people just make their own decisions and things of that nature. And the military service has been a really big factor in most of those, actually, as well. And I think there's been a few that came up in Japan, and it was interesting, Jeff, what you maybe you could tell us and tell the audience a little bit about what your experience was with how the Japanese media views Jehovah's Witnesses. This is something I didn't know, really.
Oh no, well, it was, I don't know if it was the media, but there was a like, what is it, a YouTube short, and I shared this with you, and they were it was a short talking about like these dangerous people in Japan. And this person in the video is describing these people, and I'm like, it's in my back of my mind before she gets to the point. I'm like, it sounds like Jehovah's Witnesses. It sounds like witnesses. Basically, it's talking about public preaching, and then like knocking on doors. And then she's like, yeah, it's Jehovah's Witnesses. Like, they're dangerous people. And or if it was a she, I don't know. They do these voices. We'll say she because of the woman's voice.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, wow, like, I mean, she nailed it. But then I'm like, look at the comments, and everybody's joking, casually saying, oh, they're not dangerous. They're not dangerous. And some of these comments had to be witnesses the way they were defending. It was, but there were a couple in there where it's like, they realize, okay, they're dangerous because they're a high control group. They might not go around committing violent crimes, but it's not something you want to get sucked into when you're going to be at the control of somebody else and sacrifice your social circle and family to them. So that's generally what I saw from personal experience. There was a friend I had who she had a strong sensitivity to religions with cult-like traits, I'll say. So it was just basically, it seems to me, and this is, I don't have a lot of points of reference, but just kind of speaking with her and observing when I was there, is that they do seem to have a sensitivity toward cults. If you look at the last terrorist attacks that have happened, you know, the guy that assassinated the former prime minister was tied to the Unification Church. He was a Mooney, and what he did was related to that. If you remember the terrorist attacks they did in the subway when they had the sarin gas, that was a religious cult. So culturally, their people are very sensitive to groups, at least for me, from what I sense, to groups that have cult-like behavior. So it's very reasonable for me to see a connection where if they start looking at how witnesses operate, how they think, you know, their subculture, and then the sensitivity they have to these high control groups, I can see the government targeting them. They don't, you think in the US, okay, religious freedom, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's easier from our point of view. There's countries that don't have that.
Yeah.
You know, there's countries that are like, okay, we don't care what you call yourself. We see you as a problem and we're finished with you. So I mean, it could be a possibility with them dismissing this Japanese branch member to the government kind of having an eye on them. I don't know, but just from what I saw, I can easily see it.
Right. Very interesting. And you know, it's also, I think, like we've seen before in a lot of cultures, like in Japanese culture, where, you know, the witnesses are pretty easily identified because typically Japanese people are very reserved about speaking about political views or religious views with other people, and especially with foreigners, right? And so, you know, if somebody approaches you and starts talking to you, it's probably going to be a witness.
Yeah.
You know, because it just doesn't happen. And it's one of those things where it's like you can well, the same thing happened actually. It was the same sentiment in Eritrea. When you start looking into actually the way that the Eritrean state is set up, because Eritrea is kind of one of those countries that's been in a lot of conflict and things going on, so it's called a state. But anyway, their guess, I guess, for lack of a better word, their constitution, because they don't even have that yet since their rebellion. But basically, they're the same kind of sentiment as in Japan, where it's like you can believe whatever you want. They're open to a diversity of religious beliefs, but do not proselytize. Okay, stay out of people's homes, stay out of the street, don't talk about it. Okay, go to your church, do whatever you want to do, and if someone wants to hear about it, they will go there, or they'll approach you, or they'll talk to you about it. But what the government doesn't want is people knocking on doors and things like that. So it's interesting when I heard rumors, and this is still, you know, completely, I don't want to start any rumors or start any false information, so I'm not saying this is true, okay, disclaimer. But I just heard on another channel that someone had leaked a convention talk where a brother was saying that now that going door to door actually wasn't biblical. And so whether that's true or not, like I said, I can't confirm it because I haven't actually seen that at all. I just heard that. But if you look at a lot of the things that are going on in these countries, Lithuania is having the same problem. Eritrea is having the same problem, where it's kind of like, hey, you can have your religion, you know, do whatever you want, but just leave other people alone. Okay, practice your religion, but don't want to see you in parks. We don't want to see you going door to door and knocking on people's doors if you have not been solicited, right? Have your church service, fine. And people will go there if they want to go there. And so, I think when we look at this one situation that's going on, there's a lot of, I think, factors going on, a lot more than just what meets the eye. I think all the things that you guys have mentioned, with the taking care of, what do we do with these older people? That's one factor. Another one, how do we motivate the younger brothers, especially at Bethel? Okay, and there's a lot of turnaround, and there's a lot of young people leaving the organization. How can we get them fired up? How can we get some leadership in here that's a bit more dynamic and charismatic? And then you have the world scene where in different regions there are lawsuits going on for this and that, some because of CSA, some because of human rights, some because of the preaching work, some because of the required military service. And so I think it all comes back to that, what's coming down the pike. There must be, to deal with those things, new procedures, new light coming down to be able to deal with these things, which I think forcefully is always going to have to be leaning towards being more progressive. And I think that's why with some of the older ones, that might be hard to stomach. If they start coming out and saying, hey, you know what, brothers and sisters, you can go ahead and vote. That's a conscience thing now. If you want to register, if you want to do military service, that's between you and Jehovah. There's going to be a whole lot of people squirming and coughing, and when that happens. So I think they want to get the right people, and I think, like Jeff brought out, some people that are ambitious and want to move up. So the fact that they want to move up will make them a little bit more compliant when they say, okay, you're in this position now, but we need you to support us with this, and this. And there's going to be a lot of behind the scenes meetings going on, right? To get them ready and say, like, hey, you need to be on board with this. Otherwise, we'll send you the Tony route, So there's a lot of things. Just let's see what's going on here. CJ, how are you doing? I now give them my disassociate letter. So, okay, am I interpreting that right, CJ? You just disassociated yourself? Is that what, or you're going to, or maybe you can just clarify that. If so, well, congratulations on taking a step. And each person, of course, does that in different ways. If that's the way you feel that was the best way, well, then good for you. And that's one more step to becoming your own person. So turning in the letter, once that's done. So since we're on that topic, what do you guys think? Carol, what do you think is maybe we can give CJ some advice here. What's the next step?
Oh, the next step. Embrace
Easy
the unknown. Because we've been taught to fear the unknown. We've been told that everything outside of the JW bubble is Satan. So embrace it, because the fear of the unknown is way, way worse than the actual unknown. Just go with the flow, and enjoy the ride. It's a good journey. There are going to be tough days. No doubt about it. They're absolutely going to be tough days. But that's with life in general, even in the bubble. So, just embrace your authenticity, being able to live your life on your terms. That is the best gift you can give yourself.
Absolutely. Good advice. What do you think, Jeff? What's the next step?
Well, this is somebody in another channel, I describe myself as hardcore inactive. I just faded. But to me, my advice is somebody who didn't decide to write a letter. is, just from my observation, is people who do decide to write the letter, some people are fine with it and it's great. Other people, they might kind of have those regrets after. They kind of wish, just kind of wish that it was a little bit different. So just my advice is, like, don't look back. Not only don't look back, but don't think about, okay, what did I give up? Like, look at the upside to your decision. Look at the positive reasons why you took this action. And if you do have those hard moments where you're like, what did I do? Or it's just, oh, what did I give up? If you have those hard moments, think about the positive reasons why you did what you did, and think about the positive that's going to come out of it. And I'll give you one good example. For me, I faded. There's always going to be somebody that can be like, oh, let's just come back to the meeting. Oh, let me give you this encouraging thought. Oh, somebody may not know my status or my situation. They just know I don't go to meetings, but they might want to tell me what they heard at the meeting. I can't tell you how it's annoying. It's like, I just don't want to hear it. If you're disassociated, you don't have that to worry about. Like, you don't have the people with the idea in the back of their head thinking that they're going to have some magic words to try to bring you back when you know that you're not coming back. So, it might be hard saying that you did write the letter, but that's a burden that you don't have. If you have those rough moments, think about that. Nobody's going to bother you. So that's true. That's just something I would say.
Yeah, that's true. When you fade, you're still kind of like in the category of inactive. So people think like there's a chance they can get you back, right? Like, oh, we'll keep talking to them and we'll send them a message once in a while, and you got to deal with that, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas when a person disassociates themselves, then it's pretty definitive. And also, CJ, look at the fact always, run over in your head what are all of the steps that got you to this point, right? This didn't just happen overnight. You got to the point where you actually wrote a letter. You consciously wrote a letter, you turned it in, and you separated yourself from this organization, okay? That took some thought. That took some different situations that happened. So keep that in mind of how I got to this point and why I decided to do this. And then, I think what we're hearing here from everybody, from Carol and Jeff, and myself as well, is that we always have accountability. That doesn't change. That doesn't go away. You live your life. You make your own decisions about how to live your life. And all of those decisions always are going to have consequences. And accountability comes with those consequences. That never changes. But it's you now. It's you making those decisions. And whatever happens. So keep learning. Keep learning. Don't stop now. Okay, I would say this is where the good part starts. This is where you actually start really getting into the thick of actually finding yourself now, or rediscovering yourself and finding out all these different things about the organization. Also studying about other religions and other things, what their origins are, and just kind of trying to find where your particular niche in life is, right? And what you want to do and how you want to worship or not worship, or whatever is in your heart right now, right? And as Carol brought out, that's going to be a ever-changing thing, right? Just like life is, right? Those things are going to shift and change, and we might find out for a little while that we're kind of drawn towards one thing, and then we find out when we get into it, oh, this is not I don't like this. And then you start discovering something else, and then, it's just a process. It's a journey that CJ is on. This is CJ's journey. And he or she, and I'm sorry if I didn't ask you before if you're male or female, but that's your own personal journey that you are going to discover about yourself. Wherever it is that you need to be, whether it be God, whether it be an energy, whether it be some kind of spiritual force, whatever it is, the universe, it is going to get you to where you need to be eventually. However long that might take. Sometimes that can take months, it can take years, and sometimes it's just ongoing and we're just shifting and changing all the time. So thank you CJ for sharing that info with us. So, and I think that's a common theme that we see with a lot of people that are subscribed, is that a lot of the subs are going through different stages and different changes, and there are a lot of PMOs or people who are on the very verge of making a decision, and that's a pretty vulnerable and scary time when you get to that point where it's like go time, and it's like, okay, here I go. I'm either going to do this or this, but I've got to make a decision now. And and I think we've seen here, we've all spoken individually about how we left the organization. We have, between the three of us, three very different approaches, right? But in the end, it's all basically the same end for all of us, right? It's a journey that we go on. We find out something that ultimately comes down to, we're looking for truth. We find out that something wasn't truthful, what they were telling us. And once you find that out and you realize that, okay, what I've been following, what I've been believing was true is not true, and all of us have that quality where we say, okay, this is not true, I'm done. That's simply it, okay? And not everybody has that quality. We've seen that. There are people that just overlook it. And so thank goodness there are some of us, and a lot of us, there have been, I think, millions of people that are either, at least mentally, they're inactive now, PMOs. But it's happening. It's happening because people are, we're in a time period now of information. Information's out there. You can't get away from it. You can't hide it. And things come to the surface sooner or later. So anybody else, and welcome everybody. If you're just joining us, we have, according to what my counter says, 11 people who are connected in the chat. Please say hi. Please leave a message. Please let us know who is here. Don't be afraid to interact, ask questions, make comments. We'll highlight them. So interesting conversation, guys. Interesting topic to see. I guess it's kind of a hurry up and wait and see what's going to be coming down. We're getting into now, I think everyone should pay attention. Velkiv, hello, welcome. One of our, with CJ as well, Velkiv. Butterfly Queen, hello. Here's some of our regulars, our loyal subs that are always here saying hi. Thank you for being here, Butterfly Queen, Velkiv, CJ. Appreciate all of you very much. So remember, guys, we're in the month of June now, so we're getting in kind of the last quarter of the year of 2025. Okay, and this is the last quarter where a lot of stuff happens. Okay, the service year starts to wind down. We start getting into the season of the annual meetings and all that good stuff, and that generally is, we start getting around September, October, November-ish, and that's when we start getting, the end of the year meetings. We start getting, the updates, the shareholder meetings, and that's where new light comes out. So I want to, for lack of a better word, speaking of Watchtower lingo, encourage everybody to to keep on the watch, right? Don't let your guard down, okay? Don't be the sleeping watchman, right? But keep your eyes and ears open, in these next 6 months or so, the next 5 or 6 months, starting, June on. This is where a lot of they're going to start looking at changes for the end of this year that will go into next year. So we want to, keep our eyes and ears open for what new light is going to be surprising us coming up here. So I'll just kind of open it up now, and either Jeff or Carol, if you have any other topics you saw or anything else you want to mention today. Let's just open it up. Free reign.
Well, the funny thing, I'll speak out about what I told you earlier, and I laugh when I say this. Is, well, for one, it's like you really can't put too much into the governing body being strategic. Like you think they are, and then you're like, oh my goodness. But it'll be funny to see the unintended consequences of them dismissing these old. It's just going to be fun to see like what completely goes wrong that they didn't anticipate.
Right.
Something's going to happen that you didn't think of.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's going to shake a lot of people up because there are also people who are very attached to and very loyal to those brothers. So, they make those things trying to make it look loving, but you don't know what the shockwaves are going to be.
And what I have to wonder now, like now that I've been out for a while, how many people in the organization are PMO? How many people that are on those books and they think are solid are actually completely checked out, but they wouldn't guess it. So with all these things going on, like I wonder if there's going to get to some critical breaking point where there's going to be this small group of people that are PMO that are done with it, and then a larger one and a larger one, and it could happen pretty soon. I could reasonably like I said, now that I've been out for a while, but not only that I've been out, but what's happened since. Like even you go back to counting time. How long ago was that? But how long of a lasting impression did I leave on people? There's going to get to a point where there can be one person one person in a family that's done with it, and then they find out 3, 4, 5 other people in that family are done with it too, and then you have an entire extended family that just leave. If something like that happens, okay, you leave. Did the organization really take your family from you? No, because they were all checked out anyways. And how many families like that would happen in one congregation? How many families would that happen in a circuit? In an entire region or whatever. I can see that. I can see it happening.
It has happened. Kim and Mikey, they do. I don't know, the casket. With
the casket. Yeah.
And they have had whole families. They had one extended family that numbered 30.
Wow.
All left at the same time. It is happening now. So, yeah. But John Leger, he did a video just the other day or today. And he said, keep bringing them. These videos, the apostate video, the fear mongering about independent thinking and that sort of thing. That's exactly what wakes people up. Yeah. And they still haven't learned that lesson. Every time they create a video like this, it has a mass awakening effect. And he's like, keep bringing it. I think that's so hilarious. But what I think is interesting is this fear mongering that they're promoting to try to keep people locked in, I think is going to also have another effect that I haven't heard anybody else talk about. And they're going to become so afraid, and they're already paranoid beyond belief, that they're going to tear themselves up from the inside. PMEs against PMEs, because they're afraid they said one little thing. Now all of a sudden they're scary, they're apostate, I'm going to shun them. I think they're going to tear themselves up from the inside just out of sheer fear.
Yeah. And that happens a lot of times where that whole culture of, getting people to tell on each other. And there's this like psychotic, like people are paranoid. And if you hear any, like apostate type talk, go to the elders, and then everyone's telling on each other. And it just becomes a Salem witch hunt,
Yes, exactly.
Basically. Yeah, but you do have that a lot where in families where you might have the whole family thinking that, but nobody says anything, right? Because they're not supposed to. But then something kind of slips, and then another family member goes, wait a minute. Oh, you mean you feel that way too? Wait a minute. So do I. And then wait, you do too? Well, and then all of a sudden the the whole thing explodes, once they find out, once you find out someone else is thinking the same way you did. And I think right now too, it's been very counterproductive for them to be harping so much on the critical thinking. And especially during the pandemic, what was brought to the forefront so much were these literary works like George Orwell, 1984, and these other things. It was brought back, or I shouldn't say brought back. It was brought to the forefront, to the consciousness of some newer generations that had no idea what Orwell's works were. And so people started reading those books, and they started watching movies, and they started, looking at that, and, listening to Pink Floyd, and all this stuff started happening when everyone was locked up. And so now all of a sudden we come out of that, and everyone's so tuned in now to all these different things where the system is telling you, obey, don't ask questions, do this, do that, do what you're told, and all this stuff. Kind of like They Live, right? The movie that Jeff and I always talk about, right? With Roddy Piper, the aliens that are blended in among us, right? And they're giving us these subliminal messages: obey, consume, do what the media tells you, and this and that. And so the pandemic made that, brought that back for a lot of generations that had never really read those stories or seen those movies. And so now when we talk about, I think American culture in general is we've already been pretty skeptic about when it comes to religions and churches and stuff like that. It's been a subject of movies and things like that. But now it's just really, with anybody telling you not to think, basically, right? It's critical thinking is okay as long as it's what we tell you to think about, right? Then it's and you're going, wait a minute, why did they want me to think this way? Why are they telling me this? It's just anybody with half their brain immediately questions it, right? Why are they so worried about this? What is it out there that is they're so concerned about that I might find out about, right? And if any of you out there are like any of us, that's just an open invitation to find out, because it's insatiable. You need to know, right? What's going on. So let's see what Butterfly says. I only studied with the JWs twice in my lifetime. It wasn't until the second time I studied I found out about the governing body. I was thinking on becoming an unbaptized publisher. I ended it all. Wow. Interesting. So you got out just on time. Butterfly, very interesting. Yeah. And a lot of people in the studying phase, they don't get too much into that part yet. So you were lucky to be able to see that part. So very interesting. Very, very interesting. So yeah, that is very interesting to see how things are gonna play out with PMOs and PMEs, as Carol mentioned. What's gonna happen. And I think with anything, these things do tend to, as with any type of scam or grift or pyramid or anything else, it always falls apart from the inside. It has to. That's the way they come down. So, well, anybody have any other thoughts they want to bring up?
Well, everybody's talking about that leaked apostate video.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. And what's interesting is, I try to imagine myself, okay, if I were still fully in looking, there's certain things at this point that I know, at least I know myself, would have had alarm bells ringing, even if I were sitting in the audience as a full-in member. And that would have been one of them. Because it's interesting, I remember even when I was in and kind of going through the questioning phase, but didn't really want to research anything, where I was just kind of just thinking things through, is especially when they started putting things on video, there would be certain words that they would say, or a certain way they would say certain words, where I'm like, okay, that's control. Like there's something behind that. And there's certain points in that video where I'm like, okay, yeah, I can see it. I can see it. Even as the outside, but I'm like, if I were in, like, this is just, it's creepy. It's not even like, I think some of the stuff used to have a softer side to it, but now it's just creepy.
It's desperate looking to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that the governing body didn't think about is that in the middle of all of these battles going on that are related to human rights, and most of those, like Norway and others, centered around the disfellowshipping practice and the treatment of apostates and things like that. And then that other video, you guys remember the other video before that kind of disappeared? They took it down, right? And now they came out with this new one that got leaked, and it's like, guys, it's like they don't learn. They just don't get it, do they? Because Norway is in a process of appealing to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court accepted it. And what did you guys go and do? You come out with a new apostate video, right? So now I bet you they're going to take that now and go, see what we said? Here it is. Here's another video. See, we got this other one that they tried to hide. And now here's this one. Here's another one that just came out, right? And this one was leaked, right? They don't know we got our hands on this one. They keep teaching it. You see, they're trying to fool us.
One thing I will say, I think one thing all of us who are out can take away from it is if you look at the guy who was like the apostate, right? If you look at, there were certain times where he was trying to defend his stance or whatever he was doing. He was getting pretty aggressive. And like when I was watching it, I'm like, you know what? That is exactly how somebody in the writing department is going to imagine an apostate. That's exactly what you have in your mind. Like, oh, they're going to start. Oh, there are certain times where not like completely off the hinges, but it's like he was getting pretty aggressive with the point he was trying to make.
Right.
I do think, this is just me, like, especially somebody who left, just we feel very strongly, and especially when we first leave, like it can be very intense because we were lied to, because we see the hypocrisy. Like it's a very negative feeling, and the way we want to react when we want to help somebody out can come across as very aggressive. So the takeaway I see, it's like, okay, just don't be that apostate in that video.
Right.
If you want to share something with somebody, hey, generally, by and large, the community that I see are very caring people, are people who think and people who are loving. And the reason most of us, if not, well, the vast majority is left, are for good motives. Because we wanted truth, because we don't want to hurt people, because we don't want to hide hurt. So if we're gonna be somebody who wants, if we do take the decision to try to show somebody something, like, do it with love. Don't do it with anger, because that's exactly that's what their program. That's the blueprint that they have in mind. And in reality, that's not who we are. We might feel that way, but we're not that. And I can't speak for everybody, but the general culture I see is we feel that way for a reason, but that's not who we are. If all of that makes sense.
Yeah.
Very good point. And you know what? If you analyze that for just a second, think about that for just a second. How the writing department portrays that person. And this shows you how evil they are. Because they know what a person's reaction is to being lied to. Especially when they were raised in this organization, they were, taught this their entire life. This was something they believed in. We advocated for it. We pushed it. And then they understand enough about psychology and everything else and the damage they're doing that they know that a person might be prone to acting out like that, right? When they want to defend their views and defend why they're an apostate now, they might get angry. That is evil. That is so evil because preemptively they're getting ahead of us and they're using that against us, right? Saying that, oh, these people are really angry because we lied to them. Okay, this is what their reaction is going to be. They want to be heard. They want people to understand their point of view, and they're probably going to be very emotional about it. And this is the way they're going to act out. So we have to, as Jeff said, we have to be one step ahead of them as well and understand that, right? That they want us to be emotional. They want us to lash out, right? Instead of calmly, collectively, logically, lovingly explaining what our reasons are. And that's the part that they wouldn't really expect, right? But to me, that's just that's so just in such an insidious, evil way of how they do that, right? Like they know how people will react because of certain situations, and what do? Well, they go make a video about it, and they get that out there, and they attack that ahead of time to get people ready. Oh, these apostates, they're going to be like this. They're going to attack you, and so they're already brainwashing their people and getting them prepared for that kind of a scenario. So
I don't
wow,
explain my reasons because the internet is proliferated with the reasons. And I say, my conscience doesn't allow me to be complicit with what this organization represents. And if they say, well, what sorts of things are those? And I'm saying, well, if you really want to know, you will take yourself to look it up. Because if I presume you want to know just based on you saying you want to know, you could be lying to me. And I don't want to impose my views on you like they do to us or like Jehovah's Witnesses do to everybody. If you want to know, it's out there. Or you might already know. But I'm not going to spell it out because I'm not going to presume that you're ready to hear it. But when you are, you will search for it. I don't get into the roundabout with it because all they're going to do is argue with you. It's not good for your energy. It's not good for your mental health. It's not good for them either. But curiosity will get the better of them, particularly if you do keep it to yourself.
Yep.
And then they have taught themselves. Now, how are they going to react?
Yeah. Because to me, like the most I would do at this point, like the most is like ask a good question and leave it.
Yeah.
Leave it. Just one question. Just one. I mean, I can think of 15 now, but just one question and just leave it. Because to me, what got me wasn't, I spent 8 years sitting in the Kingdom Hall, going to assemblies, thinking. It didn't take me a week. It took me years, but it was thinking. It was all of my own thinking. And like, even with them, when I got to the moment where I'm like, okay, let me actually read something, I wasn't ready for it, but it was thinking that got me out. So I'm not, the idea of trying to shove something or present something to somebody, to me, it's better to ask just a good question and leave it.
Yep.
Yeah, and it'll nag at them. Oh, it will drive them nuts.
The best thing you can do is always you got to leave the ball in their court.
Yep.
You're not gonna take it from me. You're not gonna listen to me. If you're the one that's asking the question, or if you're the one that's saying, well, what about the organization? Well, go find out. Go find out. You got the internet, just like I do. There's all this information out there. It's all public. If you really want to know, you'll find out. So I think the less is better.
Yes, absolutely.
Definitely less is better. Yeah, absolutely. Well, my friends, I'm going to wrap this live stream up here, and I want to thank each of you. I want to thank all the 17 people who are connected with us at this moment for being here, and thank you for this interesting discussion, this lively discussion, and I hope that everyone has been able to take points away from how you can handle different situations and how to be able to analyze things. See, this is how we critically think about things, and it's always better to get more heads together and get together on a topic and think about it. And just thank everybody in general for always being here, always supporting us and listening to our channel and getting the information out there to more people. And that's the whole purpose of it, right? Getting the word out. So I want to thank everybody. Jeff, I want to thank you for joining us as well. Carol, thank you very much. And everyone else, we'll see you in the following CO visits, and be blessed, everybody.